main speaker.
Yeah, I know. Okay, let's welcome the main speaker. Says I can't find it. Colin.
This is not a good sign. Colin, alcoholic. I just spilt my own water all over myself, so not a good sign. All right. This is not my favorite thing to do, and I haven't done this for quite a long time, so I might not remember what I always talk about. And if I say something that was different than the last time I said it, I mean, well, you can't lie consistently, I suppose. I'm just going to have to try and remember the truth. I want to congratulate all the chip takers and the birthday people. Did I say my name? Yes, I did. Those people that have just gotten sober, or the new, or collecting the less than 30 days, it's January, and you got to assume this has just been a horrible year for you. So, and I would highly recommend that if it's been really horrible, that you remember the details of it. Try and keep it green, and because there will come a time when your life becomes incredibly good and peaceful, and you sleep at night, and you get a girlfriend or a boyfriend, and you get a job, and the money's good, and you'll say to yourself, I think I could handle it now. I think I could possibly have one little drinky poo. And that's when you think back to this moment now, because trying to remember what it was like when you come in from the storm is a very good thing. Anyway, obviously I talk a little strange. I obviously grew up in Mississippi. Years ago, Americans used to say, is he gay or is he English? And I want to make it clear I'm English. No doubts here. Actually, I just want to look. I'm so bored with my own story, but I mean, there's people here I haven't seen for a while, and I just want to go, hi, hello, and like what I mean, well, where have you been? Are you still with her? Is she still driving you? Oh, there's another one. All right, so Alcoholics Anonymous makes a big deal about this non-drinking thing. So anyway, I stopped drinking in September 1984, which means I'm 21 years and something sober now. I was 32 at the time, I'm 53 now. It saves all the math. And my first year of sobriety was probably the best year of my life. I'll do it in order. So, back in England, so when I was a teenager, I don't know, 15 or 16, I started drinking with all the other kids, and I liked it a lot more than most of my friends did. I liked it enormously. I was like, I just couldn't wait till I could get to certain, levels where I could drink a certain amount of alcohol. And what I know now, with 21 years of sobriety and 53 years on this planet, is that my life has been ruled by fear and anxiety since I came out of the womb. And I'm sure I would have been trying to get right back in. I mean, I'd love to go right back there now. A lot of the time, I would like to be there, just floating around and my food just coming intravenously. Which is how I wanted my alcohol at the end. I always thought, why couldn't it work? You get a rack with a vodka bottle and a drip that goes right into your arm. I mean, I got so tired of drinking. I mean, people would say, I like to go for a drink and the social camaraderie and hanging out at the pub, and I guess it was okay. It kind of passed the time. But really, my purpose up until I came into these rooms was to get alcohol inside of me. Alcohol made me feel a lot better. I don't know about, whether it made me feel, handsome and strong and brave and wonderful, but it certainly stopped me feeling afraid. And that was its wonderful, efficient, beautiful purpose, is that I didn't feel afraid anymore. And so when the teenagers that I was drinking with were like going to dances and dating girls, I was hanging out at old guys' bars, pool halls and stuff, and drinking. And it was the only time it seemed to me, I mean, this is a hell of a long time ago, but it seemed to me that was the only time I felt happy, the only time I felt optimistic, the only time I really could handle the world. Life to me back then seemed to be a very frightening experience. And but I didn't know that then. I just thought I was kind of like cool, drank a lot, and got into a lot of trouble. My father raised his sons to be angry, violent men, and he succeeded beyond his wildest dreams. And we all went to the John Wayne School of Emotions. And and I actually, I'm not a weedy little guy, but I am a pathetic little coward. And so but actually when I had enough to drink, I would always go up to preferably Irish guys, big ones, and explain to them exactly about the meaning of the Troubles. And they would kick my ass regularly. By the time I stopped drinking, I had a limited number of my own teeth left. And and thank God for American dentistry again. So anyway, I grew up out in the country, and so there was everybody knew everybody, and it was a very uncomfortable kind of a thing. So when I was 20 years old, I moved to London. And London is it's a great city, apart from the rain. But there's a pub on every corner, and these pubs, I've been into pubs in America occasionally, like in Boston and New York and a couple of places that have been around a while, but you go into these pubs and you go and you feel this, and you get this smell of like 500 or 600 years of piss and vomit and booze and cigarettes and pipes, and it just smells like beautiful. You know, you just go in and you just smell it, and you go into the bathroom and it's like 300 years of urine sitting there, and it's like, you know, it feels like home to me. I mean, I spent all of my time in pubs, and by my early 20s, I was getting into quite a bit of trouble. And police and fighting, of which I really did lose most fights. And actually, it was horrible. Anyway, by my mid-20s, I'd gone into a profession that it seems to be typical of my whole life, really. I was actually working for my father in the forestry, which is where all the John Wayne School of Emotions Mutton family work. And I was also collecting unemployment, and I'd gone into the guy and I'd said, you know, I got to get an office job. I need to get out of the rain. I need to be drinking tea all day and pushing a pencil. And the guy said, well, there's 2 jobs going, entry-level jobs, one in the bank and one in this accounting firm. And I thought, well, I don't know, I think accounting sounds cooler. So 35 years later, on that research, I am an accountant, you know. And so I, where the hell was I? Anyway, so I was in London drinking in the bars and all that sort of thing, and I was sort of holding it together now and then, and by my mid-20s, I met a girl, and we ended up living together, and so that sort of like chilled it out for a little while, and it was, I was still drinking really badly, but I used to make it home, but anyway, by 1980, when I was 28 years old, she split, couldn't take my drinking anymore. And I went off then, completely out of my mind. The firm I worked for took away a lot of the work I was responsible for, and I got into an awful lot of trouble. And within a few months, and I was just, everything was going wrong. And a few months later, I decided I would go to an AA meeting, and it was a Sunday in London, so I phoned up Alcoholics Anonymous, and I said, that I'd like to go to one of their meetings. And they said, well, there's a meeting in Berkeley Square. It was a Sunday afternoon. There's a meeting in Berkeley Square Sunday afternoon. So I thought, well, I'll have a few drinks because I just want to, make sure I don't go along and they don't think I'm an alcoholic. And I came to, and it was the evening. And I phoned up Alcoholics Anonymous again. I said, hi, it's me again. I'm sorry I wasn't at your meeting today, but the world revolves around us, doesn't it? Anyway, so I went to the meeting that evening, and it was in a church basement on a rainy London evening, and there were really dirty old men in raincoats there. I mean, and they were like just as you imagined alcoholics to be. And I thought, fuck this. I think I'd rather drink. And they all looked so miserable. Anyway, so I did. I drank. I actually carried on drinking for about another 3 years. But one of the things I did to try and get out of this, I knew something was wrong. But at that time, I was convinced that the only thing that wasn't wrong, that the only thing that was right, was alcohol. The only thing that worked for me was alcohol. So it could have been the job, it could have been money, it could have been life, it could have been the city, it could have been the firm I worked for, it could have been my family, but it would never cross my mind that alcohol was my problem. And the truth is, alcohol caused all of the problems. I mean, all of the problems were alcohol, but as I looked at it, it was the only good thing. And so I joined this company, and it involved, I'm so ADD and easily distracted that little beeps like that just send me completely, like. If anybody gets up and walks out, by the way, don't think I don't notice, you know what I mean? I don't care if your bladder's about to explode all over the room. Do not go to the bathroom while I'm talking, because you are going to hurt my feelings, okay? That's true. Thank you, thank you, thank you. There will be a collection later. So, where was I then? No, it was back before then. That's what took us here. To not knowing where I am. Oh, yes, I went to AA. Didn't work. Okay, so I joined this American company, and the first thing they did was give me an American Express card and an airline ticket to South Africa, and I was going off to do this. And it was also an American company that was involved in the movie and music business, so it was kind of groovy and fun. And our job was to hop around to different countries and see how things were being run, which was highly cool, and I didn't have to wear a tie. So it was another of my career moves. I got in, well, South Africa is apparently in Africa. And apparently there's jungles and elephants and tigers and giraffes and things, but I didn't see any of that. I saw the pool halls in Nugget Street, Johannesburg, a lot, and the strip bars, and wherever you could buy dope. And that was all I saw of my stint in Africa. And it was, and then I went to Austria, and I went to Germany, and I went to Holland, which I loved. Amsterdam has to be one of my favorite cities in the world. Yes. Everything they say about it is true, and I have sampled everything they've got. In fact, I sampled some things, apparently, I wish I hadn't. But I swear to God, at the time, it looked like a girl. Anyway. So. It's not time for me to finish yet, is it? Excuse me. By the way, one of the things that really pisses me off with speakers are the ones that drink out of the water every, 63 seconds. You're like, put the fucking bottle down. You know what I mean? You're not that thirsty. You know what I mean? Just get over it. Anyway, so when I drink water, I really am thirsty, okay? Because I am such a hypocrite that I'm looking for ways. I mean, isn't it amazing how you just like get pissed off with somebody doing some fucking thing in traffic, and then 10 minutes later you do the same damn thing? It's horrible. I suspect God has got something to do with this. But anyway, so I did all that traveling around thing until they decided I shouldn't work for them anymore. And I then got into some other shady businesses with some partners of mine, and we owned pubs and clubs and restaurants and stuff. And I mean, I loved being the owner of a pub. I mean, that, as far as I'm concerned, is probably the best. If I hadn't been so sick, that would be the best part of my life. But I was sick. And where I slept was right above the, what's the next floor up? Is that the first or the second? That's the what? The second floor. Okay. Well, it's the first over there. This is the ground. That's the first. Anyway, all right. I digress. So, on the floor above the ground floor, there was where I slept, and next to it was our spirits storage room. And I would get out of, or I would come to whatever it was in the morning, and then I would go into the storage room, and I would take a scarf with me, which is a little, and I'd wrap it around my hand, get a bottle of vodka, that clicking noise, you know that clicking noise, and then put the scarf around my neck and go like this. Drink some vodka, throw it up, drink some more vodka. Oh, the scarf is because I had to shake so bad at that time that if I didn't have the scarf, I'd knock what remained of my teeth out because anyway, but it's a system that works. Should you ever go out and get DTs. Actually, that came to an end sometime later when I woke up one morning and there was this crashing noise and there were these men in suits smashing down the doors and moving everything that we owned out into the street. And so I figured that was the end of that business. And I ended up then, and at no point during all this time, as far as I can remember, did a day go by without me drinking. I mean, it might not have been much because some days it's impossible. The human body cannot take that much alcohol. But some days you just got to have enough to stop going into a seizure. And I primarily drank. I mean, if there was blow, that's fine. If there was some pot to smoke and pills to pop and stuff, fine. But I wouldn't really go out of my way for it. I mean, I loved drinking. And I loved the way it made me feel. And I wasn't really looking to go and get high. I wasn't looking to party. I wasn't looking to like fucking fly off into the outer atmosphere and contemplate myself. I just wanted to drink, get drunk, pass out, and, you know, like an experience about 6 seconds of not being in fear. And I stayed with, after this whole thing crashed, I went and stayed with friends and until they got bored with that. And the thing is that and then I stayed in like some cheap, skanky motel type places. But one day, it's funny because there are things that little moments in that past that sticks in my mind. I don't know why they do, but they do. And I've forgotten whole chunks, but I remember walking along the street and thinking, well, where am I going to go? Or where am I should go to wherever I live. And I'm thinking, well, actually, I don't live anywhere. I don't actually have a home. Well, I guess that means I'm homeless. It was like a weird moment, like, well, I guess well, anyway, this is a temporary thing, I tell myself. This is just like, and then I wake up. I mean, I'm waking up in like the lobbies of buildings and doorways, and I'm trying to say to myself, well, I'm not really homeless. I'm experimenting here, and I'm going to write a book about this. And and this is the summer, roughly the summer of '84, and I can't really remember very much about it. I mean, little bits of it I remember. And one day I was drinking with some other of my dearest friends, and I started bleeding from my stomach, or I started vomiting blood. And so they took me to the hospital, and I had gastrointestinal hemorrhaging. So I stayed in the hospital for about 10 or 15 days, a couple of weeks or something like that. So they stopped the bleeding. And in the meantime, they gave me all this stuff that stops seizures. And so I started to feel pretty good. And the doctors came and said, you know, you have a drinking problem. Or rather, no, they didn't. They said, do you think you have a drinking problem? They're very polite in England. Do you think you have a drinking problem? Would you like us to arrange a psychiatrist? And both of those statements were pretty horrible to me. And I said, no, I'm fine. But I actually really started to feel okay. I mean, the shakes were going, and I felt secure in this hospital, and the food was coming. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to cut down on the booze. And the fact is, I walked out of that hospital, and I walked into the real world, and there was sky, no bars on the windows, and I went into just absolute total fear. And I walked straight across the road to a pub called the Three Nuns and ordered Guinness. I figured that's not like drinking. It's like a food group in Ireland. But here's the thing. Like, I really wanted to not drink at that time. I mean, and I was absolutely alcohol-free. But handling life at that moment was just not on the cards for me. And so I was back in that hospital because within a few days I started bleeding again. And I went into these, anyway, I don't really remember what happened, but I know that they told me about some place you could go to a rehab, a detox, and where it was like a 5-week deal. And I thought, well, this is better than being on the streets and fighting and scavenging for food and hustling for money. So they gave me the money, and I went to a pub right next to this place. If I'd have known it was my last drink, I really would have drank some more. But anyway, and I staggered into this hospital, St. Bernard's. Well, it's the Southall Psychiatric Hospital, and I had a plastic bag. I don't know what was in it, but if you're homeless, you always have a plastic bag. It's a uniform thing. And we know each other by our plastic bags. There might be stuff like stones in there, who knows? But you just have a plastic bag, should you ever find yourself in this situation. And anyway, so I walked into this hospital, and the way I saw it, here was a bed and food and shelter for the next couple of months. And, you know, when I get back out of hospital, I will follow through with the plan. Scott Redmond spoke on Saturday night, and he was talking about the plan that newcomers always have. I had a plan, and I was going to go to Saudi Arabia and make some big, anyway, never mind the plan. But I was in this hospital, and eventually they took me into this doctor, and he sat me down and he said, okay, blah, 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 asked me a lot of questions. He was filling in the form. And he said, he asked me about what I'd been drinking. And I thought, who cares? I'll tell him. So I did tell him, like a lot. And the guy's writing away. And he was called away to the phone, and I sort of turned this piece of paper around so I could have a look and see what he'd written. And at the top it had my name, and it said, chronic alcoholic. And I thought, whoa, I don't know that I like that. But I was relieved because I thought, well, they'll keep me now. I mean, I was a toothless, homeless. I'd just come that morning from a vagrant shelter, and the sign above the door said, specifically, the Department of Health and Social Security shelter for penniless, homeless vagrants. And subtle. So that's where I'd come from that morning, and I just was mildly concerned they wouldn't let me into this rehab, in case I didn't qualify. So anyway, then they gave me a little yellow pill. They gave me government slippers and government pajamas. And they sat me in a chair by the window, and I would say that was one of the happiest moments of my life. The little pill was kicking in. I was looking through the bars of a lunatic asylum at the outside world. They weren't coming to get me anymore. I was where they wanted me to be. And so there was like the fear had gone. And anyway, I was there for a few months. And what happened is that somewhere along the line, it clicked that alcohol was a huge problem and causing me a lot of problems. Maybe I am an alcoholic, maybe not, but I wasn't ready to like throw my lot in with that particular thing. But I hung around this hospital for quite a long time. I hated AA. They made us go to AA meetings, and all these people would be drinking tea and hugging and kissing, pretending they were happy. Well, they weren't fooling me. And so I was with the other guys out the back, you know, whining and pissing and moaning, you know what I mean? The ones that are determined they're going to stay miserable forever. And but the thing is that, fast forwarding a little, a friend of mine lived in New York. At that time, I didn't like AA in England. It was all just so pissy and miserable and looking at your shoes and, anyway. It was just too bloody English, you know what I mean? Anyway, so I ended up going to the States, and I was in New York, and I'd gone like quite a while without hanging out with my cronies and no meetings, and I went to a meeting in New York, Midtown, 60th and Park. And I remember walking down the stairs, and I heard all this clearing and cheering and clapping thing, and I thought I must be in the wrong place. And I went down, it was an AA meeting, and they were clapping people with birthdays and stuff. And I heard the speech. I don't know what it was, but at that moment, I loved it. I just loved AA. And I have ever since, by the way. It's for the last, like, 19 or 20 years. And so here's the thing. I always do this. I have 7 minutes now, 8. So to sum up 21 years. So the thing that happened was that for whatever reason, I found a bunch of people that I liked hanging out with, and we went to meetings, and we hung out, and we drank coffee, and we smoked cigarettes, and we gossiped and chased girls, and we were just like a bunch of little tearaways. A little old, but we were. And I loved AA, and I loved going to meetings, and to be quite honest, from that day to this, I've never thought it's not cool to be in AA. I've never thought, you know, if people say, do you need to go to so many meetings? I love going to meetings. I love people in AA. I don't really jive with people out there very well. And I like alcoholics, whether they're drinking or not. You know what I mean? They're just easier for me to deal with. They're my people. And so I like them. And also, it kind of, I see it all the time. I've seen it so many times over the last couple of decades where people get pissed off with 1 or 2 people, and then they're pissed off with the whole of AA. It's like, fuck AA, I'm not coming back, I can't take all those people, and the next thing you know, you hear that they're in a hospital or they're coming back in all bedraggled. The thing is, the individual people aren't AA. AA is a fellowship with a program that keeps us all happy and alive. And if anybody gets pissed off with a meeting or some people, just go somewhere else. But resentments and girls, well, I mean, lovers, I mean, boyfriends and girlfriends, that's the other dodgy thing. But resentments will send you out there. I ended up drifting into a job that took me traveling all over the world. Well, actually, I hate it when people are just like vague about it. So I got the job working with rock and roll bands, a newly sober guy working with rock and roll bands going on tour. So that's what I've done for the last 20 years. And I'm leaving again tomorrow. And I've been to 66 countries around the world now. And the reason I'm saying that is that I work with Cro-Magnon males. The last possible area on this planet where you're going to find the most moronic men who are like with the fucking brain power of an ape and roughly the same cultural qualities is in rock and roll tours. They're all dressed in black. They all have a really shitty attitude because it's cool, man. And this is who I work with all day. I travel with, and we all ride around in buses and stuff. And my bus on this current tour is the fucking pot bus. So I told the driver during the break, go and buy a huge industrial strength air cleaner, stick it in the back lounge, and make that fucking room airtight. But anyway, that has got nothing to do with anything, except I just wanted to get that off my chest, by the way. Anyway, I have had... So the point is that people say, well, you know what? I'm an oceanographer, or I'm a meteorologist, or I'm a stockbroker, or whatever the hell it is, and that's really tough to stay sober in that. Well, fuck it. It's tough to stay sober if you're anything. It's got nothing to do with what we do and who we're with and where we live. It's got to do with what happens inside of us. And I wish to God I really could pinpoint why I haven't had a drink. I mean, I really would like a drink, by the way. I'm not one of those people that suddenly the obsession left and God carried me away on a little carpet, and I was just blissfully happy ever since, and little birds came and settled on my shoulder and said, now life is just perfect. Because no, I mean, I would love a fucking drink now and then. But then I'm sure that anybody would like a drink. Even normal people would like a drink now and then. That doesn't mean to say I have to have one. I would really, really like some chocolate chip cookie dough as well. But, you know what I mean? It doesn't mean that I gotta have it. Well, actually, I have to have the chocolate chip cookie dough ice cream. I mean, it hasn't... There's been so much that's happened over these years that wouldn't even know where to begin. I mean, it's been highs and lows. I have been suicidal when I was 10 years sober. I could barely get out of the house. One of my friends said, you've got to get off the couch. And he dragged me down to the airport, and I got a job with Super Shuttle. And I said, you know what? I've just flew in on first class with so-and-so rock and roll band here. What am I doing driving a Super Shuttle van? He said, just drive the fucking van. Just get out and do something instead of pissing and moaning. So I took all their little exams, and I'm thinking, I'm 10 years sober, and, you know. Anyway, and I drive my little Super Shuttle van to the airport, not at all grateful. And they say, you know, van number something, go into the airport and pick up your passenger. And I drive into the airport, and I just get so depressed that I just drive straight through the airport, out the other side, and go down to Palisades and just park on the cliff and just go, oh, fucking hell. And on the radio, they would be going, van 768, where are you? And I'd be going, I'm losing connection here. Anyway. So they called me in and said there was a chart on the depot down there, and it said that there was of all the earnings per hour and mile and whatever, and I was second to last. And I said, well, I am the 184th worst Super Shuttle driver, but this guy's worse than me. He said, that's the trainer van that goes out once every 2 weeks. So. Anyway, so I'm not saying it all runs smoothly. At 10 years, you could be driving a Super Shuttle van. If 10 years ago you were waiting at the airport for a Super Shuttle and it never turned up, I'm sorry. I just couldn't face people at that time. And I just had to leave. I'm sorry. So, I started a job with this new outfit a few months ago, and I realized how I am not immune from wanting to drink. I was filled with so much. My best thinking is that I'm not good enough. I'm going to fail. The way they look at me means they're going to fire me next week. Why is it I'm always so useless? And the good news is I dropped about 10 pounds. I was so filled with anxiety. But all I know is I phoned up AA when we got to a city, and I went to a meeting, and I read every AA piece of literature I had in my suitcase, and things got better. I mean, shit happens, but it always goes past. I've had so many things that I thought would never pass the last 21 years, and it passed. I mean, some of the things were so horrible, I didn't care if they passed or not. I wanted to die anyway. But the thing is, when I look back on it, it changed me, and it changed me for the better. And the path that I'm on, hopefully, is going to continue for the rest of my days. Because if I wasn't growing, I don't know what there would be for me. I don't know, I've done everything I've ever wanted to do in life. But I do want to become the best possible me that I can. I want to be the best possible Colin I can be in this life, and being in Alcoholics Anonymous is where I'm going to achieve that with the help of everybody in here. So thank you.